Hi, everybody. It's Maxine Taylor with my Trumpology report for June 2018. Before I jump into this, though, some of you know I went to UAC and spoke on hidden messages, and I want to thank all of you who attended my talk. You were sensational. They had set up 50 chairs in the room, and there were 70 people, and some couldn't even get into the room. The group was incredible. And to the beautiful people I met there, my new Cancerian friend who said he was shy, so I'm not going to mention even where he comes from, but it was wonderful visiting with you and other people that I met. What I'm going to do is offer webinars. Online webinars that on hidden messages that will cover what I was unable to cover in 1 hour's time. There'll be a series of them. I will invite you to be part of it. You know I'm going to invite you to be part of it. You're going to ask questions. I'm going to video it. I'm going to send it to you. If you can't attend in the live video, I was going to say in person, but in person would be in my living room here. Or if you'd prefer not to do that, you can still order the videos, but more about that later. We have a summer of all summers coming up, and I'm going to give you the forecast for Trump and the United States for June. But as soon as I have a little more energy after the weekend at UAC and my birthday party tomorrow night. Yeah, it's what I'm going to do is I'm going to video a separate video on this summer for Trump and the United States. I think that way you'll see the whole picture. And many of you already know what is going on celestially. For those of you who don't, I'll give you the big picture, but June is the tip of the iceberg. We're just starting this summer, which is going to be, wow, I mean, it can be awesome. And it depends on where all of these planets fall in your chart, which is why I'm going to recommend that you take advantage of whatever special I'm offering. I'll be offering another one shortly that will give you personally your forecast, not a solar picture, but your forecast through the next year at least, with focus on this summer. We start with this summer. So, all right, you got that. I'm going to be doing all kinds of stuff to answer your questions. So let's talk, first of all, about Trump's chart for June. We know that his birthday, just throwing this out there, his birthday is June 14th, but his solar return is June 13th. So that being a very important day, and his sun being in the 10th house of his birth chart, we can expect a lot of Trump that really actually the entire time that the sun is in his 10th house, which it is now. 10th house being your public image, your career. The sun is your ego. You put the two of those together in a chart that has Uranus conjunct the North Node conjunct the sun, and it's going to be a wild ride. It can be a fun ride, but he's going to have lots of attention. So let's get into it. The sun is now in his 10th house. Today is June 1st, 2018. It's in his 10th house of career. He loves publicity. He loves being the leader. And there it is right there. It's sitting in that 10th house. When the sun sits in your 10th house, the sun is the giver of life. It lights up whatever area it falls in. And so now it's in his 10th house. Where is it in your chart? It's in Gemini now, mid to late Gemini, and then it'll go into Cancer the rest of the month. So wherever that falls in your birth chart, that's the area that comes alive. Very interesting. So I'm gonna need my glasses because because my handwriting's atrocious, basically, and because I've written it real small. So the sun is going to be in Trump's 10th house. We have a couple of things going on that I want to alert you to. First of all, the new moon on June 12th is in 22 Gemini 44. The new moon is the time of beginnings. Well, it sits on his sun in his 10th house. That brings him even more to the attention of the public. It sits on his north node, which can enhance his public image. The thing that is the kicker is that Uranus is involved here. Uranus is 17 Gemini, north node is 20 Gemini, sun is 22 Gemini, and you know that Uranus is the rebel. It is unpredictable. We never know what it's going to do, but we know it does things for shock value, just to tip things over, just to be different, just to break the status quo. The sun is going to be on his Uranus on the 8th of June. He'll feel it a day ahead. Then on the 11th through the 13th, the sun sits on his north node and his sun. Now, as I said, his birthday is the 14th, but look for the 13th, because that's when his true birthday is for this year. And for those of you who may not be familiar with a solar return chart, let me just say, the solar return is the exact minute that the sun returns to its natal place in your birth chart. It can be up to 2 days before your birthday to 2 days afterwards. For the past few years, my solar return has been the day before my birthday. And in Trump's case, his solar return is the day before his birthday. So there will be pronouncements, there will be announcements, there will be attention. It's everything that is sun in the 10th house. But it'll start on the 8th with the sun conjunct Uranus. Okay, there we go. And Uranus rules his 7th house of partnership, of whether it's personal or business. And it rules his 6th house, I can point to it, his 7th house of relationships and his 6th house of work, health, and service, and the employees who work for him. And I'm thinking there could be at that point, since he considers, from what I can tell, he considers his appointees to be his workers, there can be some news about one of his employees. You know, seems like since he got into office, he has taken up his favorite slogan, his tagline, "You're fired." So I'm just wondering if that might be happening at that point. We'll have to wait and see. It's just a week from today, so we'll see what's going on. Now, on the 20th, the sun enters his 11th house of friends, hopes, and wishes. And on the 30th of the month, it sits on his Mercury. Mercury is our conscious mind. It's what we think about and talk about. The 11th house deals with friends, hopes, wishes, group activities of all sorts. And Mercury rules his 2nd house of money and his 11th house of friends. So the sun is the giver of life. So it opens the door for more friendship. So don't be surprised if he announces or talks about his friends, whether they are the friends we know or the friends he will soon be making. Now, the new moon, as I said, is on the 12th, and it's right there in his 10th house on his sun. The full moon is in 6 Capricorn 24 on the 28th. Now, 6 Capricorn. At that very same time, Saturn the teacher, Saturn, reality, is in right at there. I don't know if it's 6, but it's certainly 5. And so with a full moon in his 5th house, remember the full moon is when things pop, when they come to a head. Saturn, and the moon is change. Saturn is reality. Saturn is respond to your ability. In other words, take responsibility for what you do and what you fail to do, perhaps, what you don't do. The full moon in the 5th house. 5th house is children. 5th house is sex. 5th house is sports. 5th house is fun and games. And so this is going to bring all of the fun and games and all that stuff to a head. And because the moon falls on Saturn, there can be a touch of reality there. Okay? Cool. Now, let's look at Mercury. Mercury, of course, is sitting in his 10th house. Mercury moves a little faster than the sun. So, wherever Mercury is, that's what we think about and talk about. It doesn't necessarily mean action, it means communication. So, on the 6th, it sits on Uranus. Now, the sun sits on Uranus on the 8th. So he may be talking about whatever he's going to do that's going to be shocking and surprising and different on the 6th, and then actually kick it into place by the 8th. Then Mercury sits on his north node and his sun. The north node is the area of your greatest success and fulfillment. So as the sun sits on the north node and it's on the sun, it brings great popularity, great fame, recognition, and more leadership. With Mercury sitting on the north node and the sun, that's what he's talking about, that's what he's thinking about. It will do that the 20th through the 22nd, which is interesting because that's when the sun also triggers this. Very interesting. They go hand in hand. Now, on the 12th, Mercury moves into his 11th house of friends, hopes, group activities, wishes. On the 16th, Mercury sits on Mercury. So there's lots of communication about friends, with friends, whether close friends, whether allies. But this is putting new group ideas, new humanitarian ideas into action. From the 24th till the 26th, Mercury sits on Saturn and Venus. Now, Mercury on Venus is lovely because you're thinking Venus, lovely thoughts. Saturn is responsibility. For some people, it can be restriction. For people who have a strong Uranus, which he does, Saturn can be restrictive. So he is talking about his hopes and wishes, which is the 11th house, and he's getting more serious about what he wants. All right, that's this. Now, I want to make sure I'm covering everything. Here we go. Venus is our next planet. Venus is love. It is the lesser benefic. Jupiter is the greater benefic. Venus brings love and money and happiness, and it's sitting in his 11th house of friends. Very interesting. And he has a Venus return. So Venus sits on Venus and Saturn. And a Venus-Saturn conjunction, in my experience, brings loyalty, brings seriousness to a friendship. In other words, when I compare two people's charts and I see Venus in one chart, on Saturn in the other chart, the two people do not take the relationship lightly. It is serious business, which is not necessarily restrictive. It's longevity and it's responsibility. So here's Venus in his 11th house. It's been there. He's turning to his friends, etc. And we have a Venus. He has a Venus return. on the 9th, as well as Venus on Saturn, as I mentioned. Then on the 15th, Venus moves into the hidden 12th house. And this deals with behind the scenes activities. And wherever Venus is, it blesses, it brings good stuff. Okay? When it moves into his 12th house, his behind the scenes activities are beautifully aspected. This also can indicate money behind the scenes. Venus is money. So there's a lot of behind the scenes dealings that'll be going on from the 15th through the entire time that Venus is in his 12th house. It will cross his ascendant in July. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Venus sits on his Pluto on the 22nd, and give yourself a day ahead. What this means is, if I were comparing one person's chart to another, a Venus-Pluto connection is very passionate, very deep, very sensual, but this is behind the scenes activities. So we will not necessarily know what's going on. However, Pluto rules his 4th house of home, family, and real estate. And so there can be behind the scenes negotiations that are a blessing to his family. There it is. Okay? Now, Mars. And I saved Mars for last because Mars goes retrograde on June 27th. Let me tell you about Mars retrograde. It's not like a Mercury retrograde or a Venus retrograde. We know about the confusion that ensues when Mercury goes retrograde. Mars is action, Mars is energy. When it goes retrograde, we flatline. Nothing happens. I mean, the sun rises and sets, but it's kind of like, you can't make traction during a Mars retrograde. Mars goes retrograde on the 27th of June. Some of you are going to feel it by the 20th. I know it because you feel things very early. I do too. I start feeling a retrograde Mercury a week ahead. A retrograde Mars, yeah. It goes retrograde in his 6th house of work, health, and service. This can be his own health. This can be his employees. But Mars is going to stay retrograde until August 27th, 28th, right in that time period. And this is why I'm going to do a separate forecast for the country and for Trump, a summer forecast, probably next week. And this is why you want to take advantage of my special, no matter what the name is, whether you order it now when it's April showers, May flowers, or when it changes to the 3 clips special. Oh yeah, it's going to be a summer. So when Mars is retrograde, as we know, and it's going to stay retrograde for 2 months, it's the framework within which things take place. And this means that his work and health and service are not going to go the way that he would like for a while. His health seems to be good. But we're talking about his employees, the people who he has appointed, the people who work under him, all his employees. This includes his attorneys. These are the people that he considers to be his employees. Remember, he is the boss, and everybody else is there to serve. And this is the house of service. So we start the summer's activity with Mars retrograde. And then a little heads up, in July, Mercury goes retrograde. So Mars, nothing happening. Mercury, everything's confused. In the middle, we've got 3 eclipses. I know you're going to want me to do your forecast. That's why I'm putting it as a special so it's affordable. Okay, and I will give you Trump's forecast and the country's forecast. So let me see if I've covered everything. I think I have. Yeah. Okie dokie. That's a lot to think about, a lot to talk about. Let me go over to the United States chart. And let me mention this to you. Some of you, of course, are astrologers yourselves. Some of you are astrology students. Some of you are wannabe astrology students. Yay, wannabes. And when we have aspects, the planets going round and round and round, they may not do wonderful things in the chart of a country or its leader, but unless they aspect your chart with a challenge, it doesn't necessarily affect you. It can affect the people around you. I hope I'm making sense. Unless something is shooting your chart, so to speak, triggering, quote unquote, your chart, it doesn't affect you. For quite a while, we had a Saturn Pluto square. No. A Uranus-Pluto square. It didn't affect my chart at all. And I'd watch YouTube channels where other astrologers would cry, chicken little, the sky is falling, oh, gloom and doom, and oh. No, if it doesn't trigger anything in your chart, just watch the world. Okay? I tend to be very positive in my readings, and I'm here to awaken everybody to a higher and higher awareness of how awesome they are, that they are spirit in an earthbound body. And this is why I give you the mundane picture, so that you can see what's going on, not so that you're afraid, but so that you are aware. I hope that makes sense. Okay. I know it does to many of you. You've already told me. United States of America. Now, for those of you living in other countries, oh, and I want to give a shout out to those beautiful women from the UK who were in my class at UAC and who I visited with during the AFA's phenomenal silent auction. So lovely to meet you. And because Great Britain and the United States are allies, very often what happens well, it doesn't even have to be our allies. What happens to one country has an impact, whether economic or whatever. I mean, that's common sense. An impact on another country. So even though you may not be living in the United States, I'm sure you're interested in knowing what all's going on. So let me tell you. Okay, get this over here. All right. I've managed to scrunch up pages. There we go. Let's start with the sun. That's always a good place. Now, same deal, the new moon. The new moon is on June 13th in 22 Gemini 44. It sits right smack dab on our Mars. Now, this is a mundane chart. And so we have slightly different interpretations of the houses. If the first house in your chart is your physical body, your appearance, your personal attitude, for the chart of a country, it is the attitude, but it's the attitude of the people and the political attitude, the mood of the people, and it deals with public health. Well, in the United States chart, we have Mars in the first house. That means we're fighting. We've got Uranus on the ascendant, for goodness sake. I use the 748 Gemini chart. But when that Mars is activated, which it will be on the 11th, all right? It's activated on the 11th by the sun, and then on the 13th by the new moon. There's anger, there's impatience. That's it right there. No need to say more than that. People are going to be angry. And of course, being people, we tend to blame the government, but there can be great unrest at that time. Mars rules war, it rules gunfire, it rules arms, it rules fight, passion, action. And so that's what's going on until the 21st, when the sun enters our second house of money, our earnings, commerce and trade, the stock exchange, debts, personal debts, as well as the country's debts as well. All right. The sun sits on Venus on the 23rd. The sun brings light and life. Venus brings joy and happiness and money. It triggers art. It is love. And so with the Sun-Venus conjunction, this should help our income. And I don't follow the stock exchange, but it should help. Now, the next planet is the great benefic, Jupiter. Jupiter rules expansion everywhere it is. It's in our second house of money. And on the 27th, the sun lights that up. This is really cool. It also rules long distance travel and communication. And in the United States chart, it rules our seventh house of our allies, our open enemies and our allies, contracts and negotiations. And it co-rules our 11th house of groups like Congress, like the Treasury, our friends. So this is a lovely few days in there, because that's all it's going to last, a few days, when money and income look good. I don't know if we're going to apply, if I'm going to apply this to a mundane chart, but the second house to me is more than just money, and it's things. It's tangible things, gifts, awards. I have seen where it can also be a person. So, not bad. Now, the full moon, which I talked about in Trump's chart on the 28th, sits on Saturn. Now, it's in the 8th house, and the 8th house is hidden. It deals with secrets, which means the full moon on Saturn is going to get really real about secrets and other people's money, like debts, income through death, through our open enemies, through our allies. The full moon brings it to a head. So that 8th house, mundanely, is the treasurer, its debts, its escrow, taxes, losses, but death, as I said, but above all else, secrets. I'm thinking Mueller. Okay, that's the sun. Now let's do Mercury. Mercury is our conscious mind. Again, it's what we think about and talk about. Tomorrow, the 2nd of June, it sits on the United States ascendant. Now, the ascendant, as you know, is the most personal point in the chart. It rules our physical body. Mercury is what we think about and talk about. On the 2nd, it sits on Uranus. Okay? There's a lot of talk, Mercury, of busting loose, of rebellion, and Uranus rules the 10th, the midheaven, which is the president and the office of president. And so there is a lot of, there will be unexpected uprisings unexpected changes in the attitude of the citizenry. Now, Mercury is going to sit on Mars. And again, remember with the sun, when the sun sits on Mars, there's action, there's energy, there's fighting. The sun will sit on Mars on the 11th. Mercury will sit on Mars on the 8th. So there's arguing. And I say arguing because Mars is gunfire. Mars is, we may be talking about gun control. Mars is war, Mars is passion, etc. So the citizens may be a little restless. Okay? Then Mercury on the 12th moves into our second house of money and finances. And remember, it's going to lead the path. So Mercury, more communication, more talking about our money, good ideas about money and income. There may be things that are done that increase the United States income, the citizenry income. Mercury on Jupiter, this deals with expansion, and it deals with, traditionally, it rules the 9th house of foreign travel. It deals with our friends, and it deals with our relationships, and so there can be contracts made during this time, just those few days, that help us financially. And Mercury sits on the sun on the 18th, and so we're a little egocentric then, but we feel good about our stocks, our bonds. As I said, I don't play the market, so I'm no help on numbers. On the 23rd, Mercury enters its own natural house, the house that rules in the natural zodiac. And it's communication, communication, communication. And we have a Mercury return on the 25th. So there's lots of communication, lots of talking, period. Period. It's the third house in the United States chart, in a mundane chart, deals with public opinion, traffic, travel, neighborhoods, schools, teachers. You know, we've been having teacher strikes. Public transportation, news reporters, the mail, anything dealing with communication, correspondence, and transportation. Okay. Let's keep on going. Here's Venus, love, money, all good things. It's been in our second house, enhancing our finances. This is great. On the 6th, it moves into our third house and blesses our communication. And it sits on Mercury and the North Node. We can expect good news during the time that it's on those planets. It'll be a planet and node. It'll be on Mercury the 8th and 9th, which is really great. Now let's see what on the 9th, on the 8th, Mercury sits on Mars. Probably a good thing to have some good news come out of the White House at that point in time. Venus sits on Mercury. Lovely thoughts, lovely ideas. And on the 20th, it sits on our North Node, and that's the area of our greatest fulfillment. And we have terrific communication at that time. Then on the 25th and 26th, it moves into the 4th house of real estate, the Democrats, all domestic affairs. It also rules the weather. So maybe those of you who have been just a never-ending storm will get some blessings, well-deserved blessings. It deals with land, with farmers, builders, crops, mines, and seniors. This would be a great time for some legislation, perhaps, that helps seniors. And the very last planet, Mars. We know that Mars is going to start the summertime celestial events. It goes retrograde on the 27th in our 9th house. Now, Those of you who study astrology know that the ninth house deals with foreigners. Well, anybody outside the United States is considered a foreigner. I just say they're long distance friends because I see everybody as a friend. Mars in a mundane chart in the ninth house. Here's what the ninth house rules in a mundane chart. Upper courts, foreign travel, higher education, religion, advertising, science, insurance, the Supreme Court, philosophy, world trade, and universities. The ninth house is foreign affairs. Mars goes retrograde. At the time of this video, this recording, June 1st, 2018, the talks with Kim Jong-un, I think, are on. You know, they were on, and they were off, and they were on. With Mars retrograde in the house of foreign affairs, it can be flatlined. Nothing, we don't make progress until after Mars goes direct, which will be August 27th, 28th, right in that time period. It will be on our south node all month. Maybe a degree off, but it's going to go retrograde on our south node. Let me just see here for a second. Oh. Our south node is in 7 Aquarius 37. Mars goes retrograde. I don't have it here. In something like 9. It's close enough. And then it'll retrograde. The south node is in a mundane chart. The area the area of loss or draining of energy, draining of resources. In a person's chart, it's that which you have mastered in past lives and which comes easily to you, so you're naturally instinctively drawn to it. That's the same thing on a national and international level. But with Mars, the planet of war, sitting on our south node, there can be talk, and this would be on a deeper level, talk of war, talk of fighting. I know we're talking about disarmament, total disarmament of nuclear arms. And I'm not saying this to scare anybody. I'm saying that's what's there. Now, how do we deal with this? I'm going to tell you how I'm going to be dealing with it, and I encourage and invite everybody out there to do the same thing. Unless your Mars is triggered, excuse me, unless your south node is triggered by Mars, what you can do is see our world during the retrograde Mars on pause. Not necessarily warring, not necessarily fighting, just renegotiating, rethinking. Those of you who are light workers, we just need a few for a tipping point. See the negotiations. While they may be going slowly, they may seem to be discontinued, see them moving forward. And see Mars as action and energy toward a closer world, a new world. It does not have to manifest as fighting. Now, in the United States, we've had lots of shootings, and Mars is involved in that. You see your world the way you want it to be. Loving, free, respectful, a world family where everyone is, where gets the benefit of health care, of support, of loving relationships. if you create your world around you as a world of love, that's all you got to do. And all you have to do is live in the magic. I've described that in my book. I've got a copy of it back here. Move into the magic. When you come from love, everyone around you responds to it. They're not all loving. People who are coming from the dark side cannot bear to be around people coming from the light. So they will move out of the way. And then your love, your light, will lift and awaken the people who are lucky enough to be in your circle. That's how I use my aspects. So, dear friends, until probably next week when I do a summer celestial events thing, I'll do it on my regular show for all signs, and I'll do it for Trump and the United States. So until we talk again, thank you for your love. Thank you for your support. And may the stars shine brightly on you and yours. Bye for now.